Hi, and welcome to video 12 of our dplyr lecture series. In this one, we're going to start talking about different ways you can count observances of something. So we already talked about the in when we're using it in a summarize function. Another thing you can do is you can do a sum. So for instance, if I wanted to do, let's say, sum of, let's see, what I want to do. Let's just take flights. Let's take just the departure times. No, let's take departure delays. And we could summarize which ones are not NAs. Let's see. Let's do it this way. Summarize not is dot NA of flights departure delay. That tells us how many of the flights did not have an NA. Okay, so these were the ones that were not missing. If we wanted to see how many were missing, we could do the same thing, but instead of putting the not in front of it, we leave that off, and we see that many. What if we did the mean? See, this is giving us a logical vector, right? So if we took the mean, that tells us that 2.45% of the flights had NAs for the departure delay. So for logical values, the sum is going to give us the count, and the mean is going to give us the proportion. I can also use the verb count, which I think we have seen before. We could do count. So I'm going to count by tail number on this flight's data set, the ones that were not canceled. So if I do a count, put that in there. This shows me for each tail number now how many flights there were. So I can see this first tail number, there's only 4 flights in the whole year, right, for that tail number. Now I could also do a weighted count where I will sum up for each one. So for each tail number here, I'm going to count, but it's going to be weighted by the distance. So now it's going to give me the total miles that each one flew. So this was the 4 miles times the average weightings, the average distance that it flew. So it would take each flight and add up the distance for each one. So that's a useful feature. How many flights leave before 6 o'clock in the morning? Well, let's see. We could just count departure time less than 600, and this will give me a little array and says, oh, false. So these were ones that left 6 o'clock or later. These are ones that left before 6 o'clock, and these were ones that had a departure time of NA, right? Which means they didn't depart, right? And I can see then I could also just do, if I just wanted the ones that had a departure time less than 600, I could do a filter, right? Filter the departure times less than 600 and then take the number of rows that I got. That would give me just this entry. I could do the proportion, right? So I could take the departure times and take the number of rows and divide it by the number of rows in the flights. So this would get this 8730 and divide it by the total number of flights. But maybe what I want is instead of dividing it by all the flights, I just want to divide it by those that actually left, right? So now I'm taking the departure times less than 600, the number of those, and dividing it by the total number of flights that actually left. So of the flights that left, 2.657% left before 6 a.m. So this is just showing you ways to use the counting that we're going to do. And now you have an exercise to do where you're going to apply this, okay? And then come back and we'll talk about how you group by more than one variable and how you ungroup.